Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to just go over the patch notes because some pretty interesting changes this patch, especially in kind of macro games, so I figured I would talk a little bit about it and then just touch briefly on like the items and champions afterwards. So to start off, I just have my notes like here on the side to remember what to talk about, and then on the left is the exact notes if you guys just want to read along while I'm going over it. So to start off, the first thing is the bounty rewards changes. So early kills don't basically they give more gold relative than what they gave before. They still give less. They don't give 100% until 4 minutes, but it did get increased a little bit. And the first blood is unaffected by any of the changes, so as far as I understand it, it gives you 100% of what a normal kill would be post 4 minutes. Not sure if I'm understanding that 100% correctly or not, but I believe that's what this line right here means. So assuming that's true, and also we'll just talk about the first 2 points first. Assuming this is true, this means that early kills in the game are worth a little bit more, so invades are a little bit more useful. But I mean, I don't think this is going to be like some extraordinary change in how people play level 1s or anything like that. Yeah, I honestly don't think that these changes even matter that much. But and then we also have the bounty difference, which is basically once you snowball, the other person doesn't get as much gold for killing you as quickly. That was probably pretty confusing. Basically what it means is, say you snowball and get 4 kills early on 4.10, after you got 4 kills, you would reach the cap of being worth an extra 500 gold. Or not an extra 500, but 500 total, I think. Whereas now you have to get 5 kills before that happens. So it makes it to where the champion that's ahead isn't giving up as much gold when they die. So it's a little bit of favor and snowball with this patch in the bounty rewards. So I guess early game champions are a little bit stronger this patch. Well, with these changes they're stronger, which we'll get into like stuff later on that makes it to where it's kind of a contradicting patch. Some things make it favor late game champions and some things favor snowball champions. So we'll just move on to the turret changes real quick. Turret changes, basically turrets are stronger, which means that early dives are a lot harder to pull off, which this is a change that is in favor of late game champions, because late game champions like Ryze, who get dove really often, aren't going to get dove as easily anymore. So they'll be able to make it to late game a lot easier, and kind of, yeah. The one thing that is kind of weird about this change is that it actually indirectly makes Lee Sin, Elise, and Pantheon a lot stronger compared to other junglers, because they all have ways to avoid tower shots really easily. So Lee Sin commonly will like do a ward hop behind the turret, kick someone out, and then Q to them outside of the turret range. So he can avoid tower shots pretty easily. Elise obviously has her repel to completely ignore a tower shot, and then Pantheon can ignore anywhere from like 1 to 2 tower shots, depending on his use of his passive. So it may not seem like that big of a deal, but honestly, like capping a hit earlier is actually pretty huge. Like 12.5% extra damage per hit is it doesn't sound like that much, but it's actually a lot. And I think when Lee Sin and Elise are already like the A tier junglers along with Evelynn, which I don't know if Evelynn will be anymore, but well, she probably will be. Kind of depends on these ancient golem changes, but anyway, when Lee Sin and Elise are already A tier junglers, this change just bridges or increases the gap even more between those junglers. So with no nerfs to Lee Sin or Elise this patch, I think they're still going to be by far the 2 best junglers in the game. Although with these changes to Ancient Golem, maybe that will change things. I don't think it will make junglers stronger than Elise and Lee Sin, but we'll see. And then we go to this experience thing, which is also a buff to late game champions. So these two are buffs to late game champions, and this is buff to snowball champions, or early game champions. So it's a bit of a contradicting patch, and it's going to be hard to tell how it ends up overall. It's kind of, I feel like it'll just end up being kind of a wash. And at the end of the day, it kind of just makes these three junglers stronger, and that's probably going to be the only thing that comes out of this. But I did draw up some things for the range differences so you guys can see how much the range difference actually is. So for mid lane, you can see that on 4.10, like, if you go, well, I guess we'll start 4.11. 4.11, you can pretty much get experience from the middle of the lane if you're standing on your tower. Like, it's really hard to deny mid laners now. So we might see like Ryze middle be even more popular than it already is. We've seen Dade play it quite a bit in Korea, and Pobelter played it, I believe, in ALCS last week. So it'll be interesting if we see Ryze is probably like the only mid lane champion that I can really think of that is really affected by this experience change. I mean, obviously everyone is affected by it a little bit, but at the end of the day, for mid lane, it's not that big of a deal because it was already so hard to deny people, and now it's just even harder. I don't know, it's a weird change. Now if we go to top lane, from the mid lane to the top lane is, or from the middle of the lane to the tower. Holy crap, it's cold in my room, I'm sorry. Anyway, from the middle of the lane to the tower is, you can almost get there pretty much, so this makes it a lot harder to deny people in 2v1 situations. But at the end of the day, like, people aren't going to be in lane in these 2v1 situations anyway, so this doesn't really matter that much. The only thing it really applies to is like ranged champions that are trying to deny melee champions. So champions like Lulu, Ryze, Jace, who's another ranged, I'm forgetting one, Kayle, are all going to be a little bit weaker when they're denying champions like Shyvana. So I think, but then this is kind of counteracted by like, Ryze gets weaker by this change in top lane, but at the same time he's stronger because he can't get dove in like these 2v1 situations, like top lane jungler versus top lane situations, basically when he gets ganked on tower. So I don't know, again, it's kind of a wash. Like, the ranged champions that are vulnerable to getting tower dove can't get tower dove as easily anymore. Music got really loud all of a sudden. Champions that can get, ranged champions that can get dove really easily can't get dove as easily anymore with the tower changes, but also they can't deny people as hard. So it's like kind of a wash. This patch is really strange in that way. It's just kind of different changes that contradict each other. So it's really unclear where this patch is going to go, really. And then this is for, if I can get this up. This is for the other side, just kind of a bigger gap. It kind of goes off screen because the camera differences in blue side and purple side. But you can see that it's a little bit bigger gap in between the tower for blue side. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's really that much to write home about. So we can move on to items next. And this is going to be, let me see if I can scroll down to find it. Okay, here we go. I'll just keep it on the Quilco and Ancient Golem. So first, let's talk about Hunter's Machete, which it lost 10% damage to monsters, lost 10 magic damage on hit, and lost, this is supposed to be 5 health on hit, actually. So it lost these stats, but it gained 5 damage reduction against monsters and 10 AD versus monsters, and also cost 25 gold more. So this is actually a buff to Hunter's Machete, in my opinion. The main reason is because you do lose damage, obviously, but 5% damage reduction is so much better than 5% health on hit. It's like the difference is insane how much this is better than 5 health on hit. Because if you're considering, like, you're killing wraiths, you're getting hit by 4 things at the same time, which means you're getting 20 damage reduction versus in the same amount of time that you're getting 5 health on hit, because you're attacking at the same speed that Jungle Mom is going to be attacking. So in some cases this is like 4 times as good as the old passive. So that makes up for the loss of the health potion that you won't be able to get since it costs 25 gold more. And the 10 AD, I think, I'm not sure how they're going to code it exactly, but if it makes damage, if it actually how do I say this, incorporates into like bonus damage for your abilities, then the loss in damage might actually not be that bad. Yeah, so I think the new Hunter's Specialty is actually a buff. And then we move into Quillcoat and the new Ancient Golem. It's really hard to tell how this is going to turn out. The first things I notice are there might be damage issues losing the 20% damage, because while this does give you some damage, like 5% of maximum health over 3 seconds, so it's, what is that, like 1.75-ish every second. That's like nothing. Like 1.75 maximum health over on a fucking like small wraith is nothing. Like, I would much rather have 20% extra damage to kill them faster. Like, yeah, it might help versus things like blue buff and red buff, but it's definitely a damage nerf. And then the health regen and mana regen is pretty nice. Not sure if it will be better than the Spirit Stone thing, which I don't think they actually included on here. I'm not sure if the new one has it or not, but I'm assuming that it doesn't have the thing where you gain health and mana based on the damage you deal anymore. I think that might be like what this Butcher thing is. I'm not actually positive on that. And the other thing is that losing the Tenacity really hurts versus physical damage, which, yeah, you get this 20 extra armor, but 20 extra armor doesn't really mean anything when you're losing 10% flat damage reduction to physical damage and losing 25 armor from Ninja Tabi, because you're forced to pick up Mercury Treads versus stuff like Elise, Elise, Thresh, Syndra, blah blah blah, all these champions that have ridiculous stuns that are so popular now, Morgana. Yeah, so not being able to pick up Ninja Tabi in some matchups is pretty terrible. Actually, it's a pretty huge change. The word is useful. One thing to note is that it's not like the totems where it has a 120 second cooldown. It has a 180 second cooldown, so it's like an actual, you can only place it once every 3 minutes. So that's I mean, it's still okay. An extra ward is nice, but it's not something to write home about, really. And the percent bonus HP makes percent HP runes better. Not sure if they're going to be better than flat health or whatever overall, or armor in that case, or whatever people are running on their tank. Most people run like attack speed on stuff like Nautilus or movement speed. Not sure if movement speed will be replaced with percent bonus health. My assumption would be that it will be, but we'll see. I have to purchase those runes myself because I don't even have them. So yeah, this changes, like, we're just gonna have to see how it plays out. It's really hard for me to say if it's gonna make all these champions better or not. It's yeah, it's really difficult to say at this point. And then moving on to Essence Reaver. Got 10 extra AD. It's probably not gonna matter that much. It's okay, like 6 item on Ezreal, or potentially it's good on Lucian early on. So I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's not that big of a change. But basically, the thing you have to ask yourself when you're picking up an item like Essence Reaver is not if you can spam enough abilities to burn mana, but whether you can spam abilities effectively to burn mana. So when you're talking about Ezreal, who only uses his Q to harass because his W is shit and he's not going to use his E to like go in or anything like that. or use it on cooldown basically. You're only using your Q, so it's not like you're burning through a ton of mana unless you have your Mirror Mana active on. So if you're going for a Mirror Mana build, then Essence Reaver is good as like a 6th item instead of Infinity Edge, but it's still, even at that point, it's kind of meh. And then on Lucian, the reason why I think it's good on him is because he can actually effectively use his cooldowns and mana on cooldown. Like, it's always good to use his Q, it's always good to use his W, it's always good to use his E because of his passive. So while his E doesn't cost mana once you get to like level 18, once you max it out, being able to spam your Q and W in the early game is actually pretty good, and the CDR is nice on it. I don't know if we'll actually see people pick it up or not, but I think it's decent. I tried it when it was still 50 AD and it was okay. I liked other builds better, but it worked and it's decent. So it might come back, or it might come into play. Not really sure. And on champions, I'm just going to brush through them really quick since we've already been going for like 15 minutes, I think. So, Braum. I already touched on this in my video about Braum, and that is pretty much Riot doesn't understand this champion and they don't know how to nerf him because... Wait, did they actually? Okay, I understand. So basically, the thing that they need to nerf on Braum is the amount of time that his stun lasts, and the damage nerf is like okay. The damage needed to be nerfed on it too, but I honestly think they should reduce by at least 0.25 seconds at every rank. So right now it starts at 1.25, goes up to 1.5 at level like 11 or 6, at level 6 I think, and then it goes up to 1.75 level 11. They should at least reduce it to 1 to 1.5, but I think they should reduce it to 0.75 to 1.25. Because it's a fucking passive ability. Like, holy shit, it does not need to be as strong as like several ultimates in the game. Like, his passive is literally better than a lot of ultimates in the game. It's so dumb. And he already has all these game-changing abilities like his Unbreakable Shield and his ultimate. He does not need a passive that is that damn strong. So like, they either need to make the damage even lower on it and reduce it by 0.25 seconds, or leave the damage as it is and reduce the stun by 0.5 seconds. Because right now it's just... I mean, if they want to buff him in other areas, that's fine to compensate for it, but it definitely does not... The stun does not need to have as much power as it does. So Riot is... They don't... I don't think they understand why the champion is strong to begin with. Heimerdinger, who cares? Jax, not really a big deal, but we've already seen him kind of decay in competitive play anyway, so this change might make him even less desirable in competitive play. Champions like Shyvana can already handle him in the late game. Like, you can't duel him. I think a 6-item Shyvana can actually duel a 6-item Jax and win. We've seen this happen a lot in competitive play, and yeah, Shyvana can deal with Jax just fine, so I don't know. The priority on Jax has been really confusing to me over recent months in competitive play. Karthus, who cares? Kayle, she's probably still going to be strong, but might be more of a niche pick against stuff like Yasuo. Who else is she good against? Yasuo, Syndra. She's good against these champions that are really predictable ultimates that do a lot of damage. Like Syndra, you can just pick Kayle and ult whoever she ults, and Syndra's not useless, but her strength is diminished by quite a lot. Same with Yasuo, and also because she can auto-attack through Yasuo's wall, so that's good. Lucian, yeah, blah blah blah. Okay, so Maokai, it's really hard to say. This is a really big change, and it will mostly depend on how good the new Ancient Golem is, so pretty hard to say at this point. The nerfs to W are actually pretty huge, the range on them specifically. If we like open this, we can see it got nerfed from this point, or from this point to this point. Like, that's pretty huge, honestly. I don't think people are respecting how much it matters. It doesn't matter that much when you're ganking in the early game, but it definitely matters in late game team fights when you're trying to get onto like the enemy Kog'Maw and he's fucking like 800 range away, and you have this 500 range Graves auto attack range gap closer. Like, you won't even be able to get on the champions like Kog'Maw without using flash. It's actually pretty huge. His sapling has like a slow now or something, which whatever, it doesn't really matter that much. And all of his abilities cost less mana, so that's really good. That was actually his main issue in the jungle. Well, not his main issue, but one of the big issues. Even when he was really strong, dealing with his mana was pretty difficult. And also the new Ancient Golem should help deal with that with the extra mana gain. You get like 40 MP5 or something insane when you get attacked by monsters in the jungle, so that's pretty good. New ultimate is also really good, how it circles around you. It's definitely a lot more useful than it used to be. Because before people would just like walk out of the ult. You're like, oh, Maokai, I'll just walk out of it, no problem. And now it's a lot harder to do that because you can kind of choose where you want to put it or where you want to go. No, that's not really a huge change. It will depend on Ancient Golem. Nidalee definitely did not need buffs. I don't know why the hell they buffed her. She was already good enough. I just don't really understand why she got buffed. And it's not even like there are small buffs. They actually buffed her like pretty huge buffs. So I don't know. Not only do I hate playing against Nidalee, Bruiser Nidalee and AP Nidalee are both so annoying. But I just think it's really silly that they're buffing her immediately after she gets reworked, before like anyone even can play her optimally, and they're claiming that she needs buffs like a few weeks after she gets changed. I don't know, I just don't understand it. Skarner's also really confusing because I don't think he needed nerfs. He was on par with B tier junglers like Nocturne, Vi, who else? I don't know, I can't really remember right now, but he was on par with those champions, and it's not like he was destroying Lee Sin, Elise, and Evelynn in the jungle or anything like that. So it's kind of confusing why they nerfed him. And I definitely don't think that his damage was his strong point, so I don't know why they would choose to nerf that about him. It's not like huge nerfs, obviously, but I don't think he needed a nerf at all. Vladimir change doesn't matter. I don't know why everyone is making such a big deal out of it. I'm so confused. Everyone's like, I'm going to start maining Vlad now. Okay, this means literally fucking nothing. Oh yeah, I didn't touch on this. This is actually pretty big. Yasuo won't be able to start E and bully people out of lane now. Like, before you could start E and shove the lane faster than any other champion in the game, pretty much. And you also make it impossible to trade with you, because his E would do like 160 damage or something ridiculous at level 1. So that's pretty huge. I don't think he'll be like overall worse. You might, a lot of people put 3 ranks in E early before maxing Q, so maybe that will change and people will just max Q straight up now, but I'm not really sure. I think I feel like maxing E is, not maxing, but putting 3 points in it early is still pretty good, because it reduces the cooldown and allows you to kind of jump around and lane more fluidly. Zac, this shit pretty much doesn't matter at all, but the main thing is, if the new Ancient Golem is good, then he may come back. It's hard to tell. Ziggs, this doesn't matter. It's another case of Riot not really understanding how to nerf champions, I guess. What he really needs is cooldown increases, because it's not that, like, his main issue is that he stalls out games too long, and it's not like you're gonna start missing stationary minions because the explosion radius gets reduced. Like, makes no sense. Like, yeah, it makes him harder to dodge in siege situations, That's not actually where he's an issue. He's an issue in defensive situations. So what they really need to do is increase the cooldown on all of his abilities so he can't spam shit and clear out waves really fast. And with that, we are done with the patch no analysis. So yeah, if you have any questions about the patch or anything at all, I guess just put it in the comment section below. And yeah, probably will have a video coming out in like the next 2 days, I think. Like not a major video, but something more than this, I guess. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and I will see you guys in the next video. See ya.